I didn't know my wife had bought a pink Steinway piano until the bill arrived at our house. My son, Leo, was practically bouncing off the walls with excitement. We waited all day for his mother, from the morning until the sun started to go down. The birthday cake sat on the table for so long that the frosting started to droop. Eventually, Leo's excitement faded. He pressed his lips together in a tight line, climbed onto the bench of our old piano, and quietly played Happy Birthday for himself. It was right at that moment that I saw Alex's post on social media. Happy Children's Day. Thanks to Sarah for the amazing new toy for my son. I mean, can we be a little less flashy next time? Now the whole neighborhood knows we got a Steinway. I just stared at the post. My grip on my phone was so tight my knuckles turned white. I didn't even hear my son walk up behind me until he asked, "Dad, is that Mr. Lee?" I snapped back to reality and quickly turned off the screen. But I could tell from the disappointed look on Leo's face that he had already seen it. Just then, the front door opened and Sarah walked in, looking like she was in a hurry. She still had a slight smile on her face as she pretended to be annoyed. "Did the birthday party start already? Why didn't you wait for Mom?" "Well, I guess there's no birthday present for you then." My son, who had been staring at the floor, suddenly looked up with a small spark of hope in his eyes. I found myself looking at Sarah, too, with a tiny part of me hoping she had an explanation. Maybe Sarah bought 2 pianos? One for Alex's son as a gift, and one for our son for his birthday? But in the next second, both Leo and I were let down. Sarah pulled out a custom-made children's watch with a spaceship design. "Leo, what do you think? Do you like it?" My son forced a smile, took the watch, and set it down on the sofa. He mumbled a quiet, "Thank you." Sarah turned to me, clearly unhappy. "What's his problem? I rushed to pick up this watch after working late, then hurried back to celebrate with him. Why the long face?" My son's voice trembled. "You promised you'd get me a piano." Sarah unbuttoned her coat, her patience wearing thin. "Just because you didn't like your present? We're spoiling you. Fine, it's not like we can't afford a piano. I'll have your dad take you to buy one tomorrow, okay?" But that wasn't the point. My son wasn't just throwing a tantrum. He just wanted the piano his mother had promised him for his birthday. It was this one simple thing, and Sarah had put it off year after year, always forgetting. If she were just busy, I could understand. But she had somehow remembered to buy a gift for Alex's son. Yet she forgot the promise she made to her own. I couldn't hold it in anymore. I held up my phone so she could see the screen. "Working late? Or were you working late helping Alex get a Steinway delivered?" Her lie was exposed, but she didn't even look guilty. She just adjusted her glasses and spoke with a tired voice. "Mark, not this again. I told you, Alex and I don't have that kind of relationship. I don't owe him my heart. I owe him my life." Sarah had been saying this for years. "I'm just paying a debt. Don't overthink it." Or, "I'm just making up for the motherly love his son is missing." When I pressed her, she would add, "If I hadn't insisted on marrying you and breaking our engagement back then, he wouldn't have ended up in this situation." What more did I want from her? Sarah and Alex were childhood sweethearts and had been engaged since they were young. They were about to get married, but then Sarah met me at a concert. At the time, I was on a stage in London, playing Liszt's Reminiscences of Norma. Sarah said it was love at first sight, and she pursued me non-stop. She even broke off her engagement to Alex. As if on cue, disaster struck Alex's family. After the engagement was called off, his family's company ran into serious financial trouble and was close to bankruptcy. Alex quickly got back together with an ex-girlfriend, Chloe, and they got married. A few years later, Chloe was killed in a car accident, She had been in Dallas signing a contract on Sarah's behalf. Alex was left alone with their young son, Sam. There was no inheritance. It was all gone. From that day on, Sarah's guilt became overwhelming. For a while, she could barely even look at Alex. She would lock herself in the study and just repeat, "It's my fault. It's all my fault." I was the one who helped her get through that dark time. But looking back now, I think it might have been better to let her stay there. Because after that, Sarah started trying to make it up to Alex and his son, to the point where she crossed a line. And she didn't seem to care at all. Just like now, she still thought this was just about me being jealous. She muttered, "Don't drag the kids into adult matters," and went back to the study by herself. In the past, I would have been the one to go and smooth things over, just to keep a healthy environment for our son. But today, I didn't want to. I just motioned to my son, who was looking at the floor. "Leo, you haven't opened Dad's present yet." The moment he opened the box, he gasped. He was instantly happy, bouncing over to me and asking carefully, "Dad, is this real?" In his hands were a few old, worn pieces of paper. The musical staff was messy, covered in smudges and notes that had been crossed out. But my son's hands were trembling with excitement. I raised an eyebrow. "Of course, it's the real deal, an original Chopin manuscript." It had cost me a fortune and required calling in a lot of favors, but seeing the smile on my son's face, I knew it was worth it. I sat down with my son at our piano, and we played a nocturne together. At some point, Sarah came out of the study. She watched us for a while, lost in thought as we enjoyed the moment. After a few minutes, her tone softened, and she spoke first. "Okay, Mom was wrong. How about I go with you tomorrow to pick out a piano?" Unfortunately, the next day, she broke her promise again. Just as it was getting light outside, Sarah left in a hurry. "Alex said his son ran away," she explained on her way out the door. "I'm going to help him look. We'll go pick out the piano when I get back." Before she even finished the sentence, she was gone. My nails dug into my palms. I hated how she kept breaking her promises to our son. At the breakfast table, Leo surprised me by not even asking where Sarah was. He just ate his breakfast politely, and then looked up. "Dad, can you take me to pick out a piano?" Leo and I went to the piano store. The manager knew me well, and quietly stepped aside, only coming over when I needed something. My son tried one piano after another. I walked around the store, just looking. In a corner, I saw a little boy timidly touching a piano. When he saw me walking toward him, he thought I wanted to try it, and shyly moved away. I smiled. "It's okay. I'm not trying this one. Go ahead." The boy's clothes looked expensive, but strangely, he was all alone. I couldn't help but ask, "Hey there, are you here buying a piano by yourself? Where are your parents?" He jumped, startled, and spoke in a tiny voice. "I'm not buying, just looking. We have a piano at home." Then, as if he was trying to convince himself, he boasted, "It's a Steinway." I had to smile. When I got my first Steinway, I was even more of a show-off than he was, wanting everyone to know. Seeing a Steinway right there, I was curious. "Well then, may I have the honor of hearing a little musician play a piece for me?" The boy hesitated, wiped his hands on his clothes, and sat down. Fluent notes came from his fingertips. I watched his fingers, and a small frown appeared on my face. When he finished, he bit his lip and looked at me. How was it?" I clapped with a smile. "Excellent." The boy seemed happy, but also a little disappointed. "But my dad says I don't play well, and I don't really like the feel of a Steinway. It's too..." At the exact same time, the boy and I both said, "Too light." The boy's eyes lit up. "Mister, you think so too?" I had noticed it while he was playing. The boy was small and had small hands, so he didn't have enough control over the keys. Steinway keys are very light. The slightest touch makes a sound, and it's easy for fingers to slip. I explained it to him gently, and then pointed to a piano nearby. You'd actually be a great fit for a Bösendorfer. Its keys have more weight, which would suit you well. He curiously went over to try it. Wow, you're right. Mister, you know so much. I offered some honest advice. You should talk to your parents about it. A piano isn't better just because it's more expensive. You have to choose one that's right for you. The boy sadly touched the Bösendorfer. My dad won't let me switch. He just loves Steinways. It wasn't my place to get involved in another family's business. When I turned around, I saw my son staring at me thoughtfully. He had apparently heard our conversation. I walked over to him. Did you pick one? My son looked at the Steinway on his left, then at a more understated piano on his right. Finally, he made up his mind. Yeah, I've decided. My son chose a Fazioli, an Italian piano. It wasn't as famous as a Steinway, but it was known for its brilliant sound. I paid for it without hesitating. It was $250,000, but I didn't feel bad about it at all. I was just happy he chose the piano that was right for him. On the way home, just as we reached the entrance to our gated community, I spotted Alex. I didn't really have any dealings with him, but ever since he insisted on being friends on social media, he'd been posting pictures of himself every few days. It was hard not to recognize him. I didn't want to talk to him, and was about to take a different route home. But just then my phone buzzed. It was a message from Sarah. Did you buy the piano? Leo wasn't crying, was he? The bill's on me. A notification followed. You have received a transfer of $200,000. Without a second thought, I hit the return button. Sarah probably didn't look closely and just assumed I'd accepted it, so she thought my anger had passed. She sent a playful message. You can't be mad anymore now that you've taken the money. I didn't want to argue, and was about to lock my screen. Then another message from Sarah came through. Oh, by the way, I need to tell you something. This morning, Alex said his son was practicing piano at home and someone complained about the noise. His son got upset and ran away. I figured we have so many empty houses, so I let them stay in the community for now. At least that way, no one will complain. My mind went blank. Across the street, Alex raised his eyebrows and waved at me. A horrible realization hit me, and my hands started to shake with anger. You let them stay in the house I bought for Leo to live in when he gets married? Sarah replied instantly. Oh, come on. Leo's just a kid. That's ages away. We can just have them move out later. I was too furious to speak. When I bought our main house, I had also bought the best villa in the community next door. I wanted it to be a home for my son when he got married, so he wouldn't be too far away. I'd had it maintained for years, picking out every single detail myself. The renovation costs alone were staggering. And now, Sarah had just lent it to Alex without even asking me. I replied to Sarah, "Get back here, now! Or you can take Alex and get lost on the other side of the planet." I used all my willpower to keep a straight face and told my son to go home first. But when Leo saw the moving company hauling that pink Steinway into the villa, he understood everything. For the first time in his life, he disobeyed me. Dad, I'll stay with you. Before I could say anything, Alex was standing in front of me. He looked at my trembling fingers and smirked. Mark, are you really this angry? It's just a house and a piano. It's not like I'm taking your woman. Before he could finish, I slapped him hard across the face. He seemed shocked that I would actually hit him in public. The movers and our nosy neighbors all turned to stare. Embarrassed, Alex was about to hit me back, but his eyes suddenly caught something over my shoulder. He changed his mind, clutching his cheek as his eyes started to water. I had no patience for his act. But someone else did. Sarah rushed past me like a gust of wind, steadied Alex, and yelled at me, "Mark, are you crazy?" I nodded thoughtfully. Then I swung my arm and gave Sarah a slap too. Didn't want you to feel left out. I've never seen someone cheat on their husband and use their son's future home to house their boy toy. I guess you haven't been hit enough. My voice was loud, and everyone there heard me clearly. Instantly, 100 different looks fell on the two of them. Sarah, who cared so much about her image, couldn't be bothered with anything else. She hissed through her teeth, "Mark, let's talk inside." I was actually curious to see what they had done to my son's house. A $200,000 piano? I didn't care. A gift is a gift, like tossing a treat to a dog. But a $30 million house? Whoever dared to live in it, I'd destroy them. Sarah shooed away the crowd of onlookers. The four of us walked into the villa. As soon as we entered, we saw a small boy peeking around the doorway. I froze. It was the boy from the piano store. What a coincidence. The last time I saw Alex's son was at his mother's funeral. He was just a little kid. And since that day, Alex had never posted a single picture of his son. Even on posts about his son, he would only post pictures of himself. Alex motioned to the boy. "Sam, come here. Your Aunt Sarah is here again." He deliberately emphasized the word "again," as if to prove a point. I'm no saint. I couldn't just feel nothing toward Alex's son. Remembering our pleasant chat that morning, I couldn't stop a bit of venom from seeping into my voice. What a damn shame. The boy, who had been watching me cautiously with a hopeful smile, turned pale. Tears welled up in his eyes. Sarah frowned at me. "Mark, where are your manners?" Alex seemed determined to play the opposite role. If I was being petty, he would be generous. "Well now, this must be your son, Leo, right? First time visiting Uncle's house? Make yourselves at home. Tell the housekeeper what you want to eat." He really knew how to get on my nerves, so I didn't hold back. "Your house? Great. I'll sell it to you for $30 million cash or wire transfer." Sarah, seeing I was about to explode, tried to smooth things over. "Leo, take your little brother upstairs to play. The adults need to talk." My son didn't move. He looked at me, and only when I nodded did he get up and head upstairs. Sam followed behind him like a timid little shadow. Once the boys were gone, Sarah looked at me with disapproval. "Our son is here, so I'm giving you some face and not calling you out. But look at you today, you're acting like a madman. So what if they're just borrowing it for a few years?" Then, as if worried she'd been too harsh, she added playfully, "I'm all yours, so what is there to worry about?" I let out a cold laugh. "Don't bother. You only give me the things that aren't worth anything." Sarah didn't want Alex to see her looking flustered. Alex tactfully got up, saying he was going to check on the kids, leaving Sarah and me to stare each other down. There was nothing left to say. The conversation quickly died. Just as I was losing patience and about to call the police to have Alex forcibly removed, his housekeeper ran over, looking panicked. "Mr. Lee, that pink piano has several huge scratches on it." Soon, our son and Sam were called down to the living room. Alex, his meaning clear, complained pointedly, "Sarah, I told you that you need to treat them both equally. What kind of mother are you? Your own son doesn't even have a Steinway yet, but you went and bought one for Sam first. See? Little kids have feelings too." His words all but declared that my son had destroyed the piano out of jealousy. I stared at him coldly. Say one more word, and I will personally track down every last cent Sarah has ever spent on you. Alex opened his mouth to retort, but Sarah cut him off impatiently. That's enough. Both of you, just stop. Alex's eyes immediately turned red, but this time Sarah didn't rush to comfort him as she usually would. Instead, she looked sternly at our son. Leo, were you being naughty just now? Just admit you were wrong, and it'll be fine. Dad, Mom, and Uncle Alex won't be mad at you. Before she finished, our son's eyes widened in disbelief. His lips trembled. Mom, you don't believe me either? Sarah tried to coax him. What has Mom taught you? A good boy is one who can admit his mistakes and correct them. Tears streamed down our son's face. I couldn't take it anymore. All this time, I thought Sarah was, at worst, just a little too nice to everyone. Now I knew her warmth was only ever for outsiders. I pulled my son behind me. Enough! You're so full of crap. We're getting a divorce, Sarah. At those words, everyone in the room reacted differently. My son's eyes widened as he looked at me, but he didn't object. Alex had a look of pure glee on his face. Sarah just stared at me, stunned. It took her a moment to find her voice. Mark, I wasn't saying it was your failure as a parent. It doesn't have to come to this. I cut her off. You're right. My parenting isn't a failure. My marriage is. My words hit a nerve, and Sarah looked embarrassed. Since she didn't dare yell at me, she turned to our son, her voice sharp. Look at what a mess you've made over this little thing. Tell your father to stop this nonsense right now. My son's voice trembled, but it was firm. My dad isn't making a fuss, and this isn't a little thing. I didn't do it. You can't frame me. He pointed at Sam. I was with him the whole time. He can vouch for me. All eyes in the room turned to Sam. I couldn't help but sigh internally. Alex took a few steps forward and pushed Sam into the middle of the room. Well, what did you see? Sam recoiled, trying desperately to back away, but Alex's fingers dug into his shoulder, refusing to let go. Sam looked from one person to another. After a long moment, he lowered his eyes. I don't know. I went to the bathroom for a minute. I didn't see what happened. Alex was clearly not satisfied with that answer. Our son stared at Sam in disbelief. You're lying! You were right behind me the whole time! I patted my son's shoulder reassuringly, signaling him to stop. Sarah looked at me as if she had won. I say we just drop it. Come on, you two boys. Shake hands, and this will all be over. I let out a cold laugh. Sarah, I think you're mistaken. Do you really think I care about the truth? You bought that piano with marital assets, and this villa is in my name. Even if Leo did do it, what right do they have to demand a handshake from my son? Before I finished, my assistant walked in. Mr. Quinn? The moment it happened, I had called her and asked her to bring people over. Now, I gestured upstairs with my chin. Get that pink Steinway out of here, sell it, and donate the money to charity. Alex shrieked and lunged forward to stop them, but he was shoved aside. He could only shake Sarah frantically. Sarah, look at him. In the end, it's all about the money for him. But for once, Sarah didn't side with him. Instead, she rubbed her temples tiredly. Mark, let's talk. The atmosphere on the way home was heavy. Sarah was the first to break the silence. She beckoned to our son gently. Leo, come here. My son instinctively looked at me. I neither nodded nor shook my head, leaving the decision to him. He hesitated, then walked over, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. Sarah stroked his hair and said, surprisingly, You've been wronged, haven't you?" Sarah then tried to reason with our son in a tone of weary resignation. She said she knew he was innocent. She knew he'd grown up watching me, and we both had a natural respect for pianos, treating them as our partners. She knew he would never destroy any piano. Leo was confused. "Then why did you—" Sarah sighed. "We're family. Family can take a small loss, and we can talk it out later at home. Your Uncle Alex is different. He's already had a hard life. And little Sam. Think about it. He grew up without a mother. Isn't that pitiful?" I almost laughed out loud. Such perfectly twisted logic. My son was dumbfounded. He managed to whisper, "I think having a mother is pretty pitiful for me too." After educating our son, Sarah turned to me. "You're angry right now, so I won't argue with you, but this is the one and only time. Don't you ever threaten me with divorce again, no matter how angry you get. That's a bottom line." I sneered. "Which one of your eyes told you I was threatening you? Do you want your legal team to draft the divorce papers, or should mine?" Sarah froze, studying my expression. "You're serious?" "I don't agree." She pushed our son forward. "Go on, talk some sense into your father." My son subtly sidestepped her hand and said nothing. Sarah kept talking at him. "Your dad is just a retired pianist. If we really get divorced, do you think he can maintain the comfortable life you have now?" Just then, the piano my son had picked out that morning was delivered. Sarah glanced at it and froze. "That's not a Steinway." Then, as if a light bulb went off, she looked at me. "You bought some off-brand piano and still accepted my $200,000 transfer? Mark, if you need money, you can just ask me. You don't have to scheme and scrape money from me like this." Sarah didn't recognize a Fazioli. She thought any piano that wasn't a Steinway was junk. I couldn't listen anymore. "Why don't you take a good look at your transaction history? Are your eyes just for decoration?" After being slapped and yelled at by me all day, Sarah finally snapped. "Mark, I've been spoiling you rotten. You think about it. What good will a divorce do you? I have a company, I have stocks, I can keep making money, and I have Alex who is completely devoted to me. What do you have? A savings account that you'll just burn through." Sarah stormed out on the spot and went to stay over at Alex's place. And from that day on, I seemed to calm down. I didn't mention the divorce again, nor did I bring up making Alex move out of the villa. Sarah thought I had surrendered and became even more convinced that I only responded to a firm hand. She wanted to use the opportunity to knock some sense into me. So she had her secretary deliver a divorce agreement. She paraded around with Alex and Sam. She even flaunted it in front of me. "Mark, Sam is looking for a piano teacher. I think you'd be perfect. You have to teach Leo anyway. Might as well teach them together." She expected me to cry, to throw a fit, to feel humiliated. But I just kept tuning the piano, without looking up, and casually replied, "Sure." Sarah was stunned. She asked tentatively, "You're really willing?" I smiled. See how messed up this woman is? Go against her, and she feels her authority is challenged. Go along with her, and she feels uneasy. Alex demanded I give the lessons at his house. The location was the villa I had bought for my son. I readily agreed. The moment I walked in, Alex handed me a pathetically thin envelope. "Mr. Quinn, Sam's piano lesson fee." I walked past him without a glance, stood in front of Sarah, and threw a stack of documents in her face. The sharp edge of the paper cut her pretty face. But Sarah didn't seem to feel the pain. She stared at the papers that had landed on her lap and frowned. "A divorce. Agreement? Mark, not this again. I'm not signing it. As for the lessons, if you really don't want to do it, then forget it." I laughed coldly. I suggest you sign this one. The other version doesn't have such a favorable asset split." Sarah looked up, confused. My assistant stepped forward and handed her a thick stack of files. Sarah took one look, and her pupils shrank. "Mark, you've gone too far." I shot back. "We're just getting even." During the time Sarah was trying to teach me a lesson, she and Alex had gotten too close. So close that a private investigator I hired took a lot of photos. Sarah and Alex holding Sam's hands on either side. Alex cooking for Sarah, cutting his hand by accident, and Sarah tending to it with concern. Of course, much of this couldn't be submitted as legal evidence, but it didn't matter. I would post it online and use public opinion to pressure her. But the most powerful evidence I had was sent to me by Alex himself. It was a photo of Sarah lying next to him in bed, with suggestive red marks on her neck. Alex's triumphant confession. That was the kind of evidence the court would accept. I spoke at the right moment. "You have two choices. We split the assets and have a peaceful divorce, or I prove adultery in court and you walk away with nothing. Sarah, which one will you sign?" Sarah must have gone deaf. She just stared blankly at the photos. Finally, she spoke. "Mark, all this time, you've been plotting against me." I laughed, exhilarated. "What do you think?" Things went smoothly after that. Sarah had to sign, whether she wanted to or not. My assistant later asked me privately why I didn't just make her leave with nothing. I sipped my coffee while basking in the sun. First, when the money in your account reaches a certain point, it's really just a number. There's no need to waste energy fighting with her over it. Second, never back someone completely into a corner. If I had really forced her out with nothing, Sarah wouldn't have let me live in peace. This is the best outcome. We both cut our losses and draw a clean line. Keeps my mind clear. My assistant had a lesson learned expression and went back to handling the details. Meanwhile, my son practiced the piano as if he hadn't heard a thing. When I told him about my decision to divorce, he just said calmly, "I know." He didn't have much of a reaction. Now, I tried to talk to him. "Even though we're divorced, I've already agreed that she can visit you anytime, as long as you're okay with it." My son played the final note and answered with a question of his own. "Dad, why did you get a divorce?" I thought for a moment. "Too many disappointments, I guess." My son smiled. "Me too." The day we signed the divorce papers, Alex was there. He was playing the part of the supportive spouse. He kept asking me how I was entitled to so much money. I found it amusing, because it was all my premarital property. As for the house I originally bought for, "My son, I found it tainted. I made Sarah buy me out in cash. Sarah couldn't come up with that much money at once and wanted to use company stock to cover it." I politely declined. Sarah was incredulous. "This is worth much more than cash," I replied with a knowing look. "Not necessarily. I'm the kind of person who prefers cash in hand." Sarah had no choice but to scrape the money together. She looked utterly defeated, but Alex was beaming. "Sarah, this is for the best. It saves you from getting tangled up with him in the future." I don't know if it was my imagination, but Sarah's face seemed to darken even more after he said that. The day we moved out of the villa, my son was in the passenger seat. "Dad, Sam is behind us." I glanced in the rearview mirror. The boy was jogging behind the car, waving at us, looking like he wanted to say something. I paused for a second, then hit the gas and sped away. The boy finally stopped chasing, standing there with his head down, looking dejected. My son wanted to say something, but didn't. I kept my eyes on the road. "You think I'm cruel?" My son shook his head. "I think he's pitiful, There are many pitiful people in the world, I said. But if feeling sorry for someone else makes me feel bad, I'd rather be the villain. Life after the divorce was incredibly busy. My son went to a boarding school. I was busy starting a film and television music production company, specializing in movie scores. I'd been interested in this field for a long time, but I was always too busy helping Sarah's company with business development to pursue it. Now, my dream was finally coming true. It wasn't easy at first. It was a new venture, after all. But after 3 months of non-stop work, I finally got the hang of it. As it happened, the owner of a partner company invited me to a charity dinner. I agreed, thinking it would be a good opportunity to expand my network. But as soon as I arrived at the ballroom, I ran into Sarah and Alex. Sarah looked surprised. "Mark, do you need something from me? This isn't the right time. I'll contact you tomorrow." Her words left me speechless. I'd heard that Sarah had been busy patching up financial holes in her company. Alex, meanwhile, had gotten his wish and finally married Sarah. At that moment, Alex put his arm around Sarah's, as if to claim ownership. "Mark, you need to remember your place." In that instant, I had an epiphany. The two of them were a match made in hell. Before I could say anything, someone came up from behind Sarah. "Professor Quinn, over here. Your seat is at the main table. I'll show you the way." I nodded elegantly. "Thank you." Sarah looked toward the voice and froze. "Mr. Wallace? It's Sarah Quinn. I don't know if you remember me, but we worked together for 5 years. I heard you weren't renewing our contract this year. I was wondering if there was some misunderstanding. If it's a matter of price, I can—" Mr. Wallace cut her off. "I heard you, and Professor Quinn got divorced." Sarah nodded instinctively. Mr. Wallace looked confused. "Well, there you have it." Sarah was about to lose her mind. She didn't understand at all. She looked completely bewildered. "So what does my divorce have to do with you not renewing the contract?" Mr. Wallace chuckled. "Because I only signed with you in the first place out of respect for Professor Quinn. I'm his biggest fan." Sarah stared blankly at me. Dressed in a perfectly tailored black suit, I walked elegantly to the main table. At least half the people at the table stood up to shake my hand. People around were whispering. I heard Professor Quinn is planning a comeback. It's no wonder. So many industry leaders are his fans. With a network like that, it was a waste for him to be retired. Sarah suddenly remembered that she never really knew the extent of my status in the music world. She had once jokingly asked if I had a lot of fans. At the time, I had laughed and said, "Not many fans, but they're all heavy hitters." Sarah smiled through gritted teeth. The people at the main table were all major figures in the industry. Sarah had worked with many of them before. She had thought it was her own competence that had earned their recognition. But looking back now, she realized they had all come because of me. Sarah wanted to slap herself. In the 3 months since her divorce from me, her company had lost several major contracts. It was now struggling to stay afloat. To make matters worse, her professional life wasn't the only thing in shambles. Her love life was a disaster, too. After the wedding, Alex became a different person, a total control freak. Every time she spent money, he would interrogate her about it, telling her what she should or shouldn't have bought. Yet he spent money like water himself. He'd buy 5 or 6 limited edition luxury watches at once. He went to an expensive golf club every other day. Not only that, but he started trying to network on her behalf, just like I used to. But those wealthy tycoons looked down on him, subtly putting him in his place. The more they did, the more Alex tried to suck up to them. He maxed out her credit cards, buying them expensive cigars and antiques, calling it a gesture of goodwill. "Once you show enough sincerity, things will get done," he'd say. but they would take his gifts and then mock him for his tacky efforts behind his back. Sarah was humiliated by association. Sarah stared daggers at me and my son. Several times, Sarah had tried to meet with Leo, but he always said he was busy. Now he was standing beside me, graciously greeting everyone. Then she looked at Sam, hiding behind her, who could only manage a sycophantic smile at everyone he saw. Suddenly, Sarah was filled with regret. After the banquet, she made a point of sending Alex away so she could have a word with me. But she couldn't even get close. She was jostled around in a crowd of fans and reporters. My gaze swept over her, a derisive smile playing on my lips. Sarah thought she must be going crazy. When I began a global tour, she bought a ticket to every single show. She followed me all over the world. I knew about it, but I didn't stop her. Sarah secretly rejoiced, thinking I still had a soft spot for her. But after one concert, she went backstage with a bouquet of flowers, hoping to surprise me. Instead, she overheard me telling my assistant, "Don't worry about her. She'll stop when she runs out of money." Sarah was incandescent with rage. When Alex found out, he threw a massive tantrum, even threatening self-harm to get her to come home. Sarah had no choice but to book a flight back overnight. It wasn't that she was afraid of Alex dying. It was that the villa they were living in was their only remaining property. If they needed cash flow later, they would have to sell the house. A house where someone had died would lose at least a third of its value. She felt a bitter resentment, wondering how she had managed to play such a good hand so badly. Late at night, listening to Alex's heavy breathing, she grew more and more agitated. Too many setbacks had worn away any trace of class Alex once had. Even though he was once a genuine rich kid, he wasn't fit to hold a candle to me now. At first, she took care of Alex out of guilt. But over time, she began to unconsciously compare him to me. Alex was passionate. I was reserved. Alex was proactive. I was calm. Now, seeing me still shining so brightly after the divorce, she began to find Alex embarrassing. After the tour, I remained busy running my company, raising my son, but I also found time to become an honorary professor at the conservatory. Sarah couldn't get into my company, but she could sneak into the conservatory and audit my classes. My voice was smooth and persuasive. Your choice of peace isn't about being as difficult as possible. If your execution is poor, it will also affect the judge's scores. She watched me, mesmerized. I seemed to be doing very well. Even the corners of my eyes crinkled with a smile. She didn't know if we could ever get back together, but she wanted to try. So she started contacting our son frequently. Sarah made a big show of buying a Steinway and having it delivered to our son's school. She thought he would be moved to tears, but he just looked at her with disappointment. "You don't even know if I play a grand piano or an upright." Sarah finally learned that the Fazioli I had bought for our son was far more expensive than a Steinway. She had been blind. She had thrown away a treasure. Sarah asked Alex for a divorce. But Alex was not as dignified as I was. He clung to her like a madman. Later, when he saw that her mind was made up, Alex gave her a strange smile. "If you won't let me be happy, then you won't be happy either." He reported Sarah to the police. He claimed that his late wife's car accident years ago was a hit and run that Sarah had arranged. The police issued a bulletin for her cooperation, and she went into hiding. Only Sarah knew the truth. Chloe had secured that contract. She had demanded a 50-50 split with Sarah. But at the time, Sarah's career was just starting, and she was desperate for money. So she came up with an idea. If Chloe had an accident, she naturally wouldn't be able to worry about the contract. But she never expected the driver to make a mistake and actually kill Chloe. With no way out, Sarah decided to turn herself in. But first, she went to my solo concert. On stage, I was impossibly handsome. It was reminiscences of Norma again. My performance was even better than it had been all those years ago. But Sarah never expected Alex to suddenly rush the stage, a knife in his hand. He screamed at me, "Go to hell!" I didn't even raise an eyelid, continuing to play with perfect composure. Without thinking, Sarah lunged forward to shield me from the danger. But several bodyguards suddenly appeared, expertly intercepting Alex and dragging him away. On stage, only I remained completely unfazed, and a bewildered Sarah. Sarah felt eyes on her from all directions. She suddenly felt like a clown. Sarah and Alex were both taken away by the police. She heard about the rest later. Alex spread rumors that I was the other man and claimed my son was psychologically disturbed and had scratched his $1 million piano. But 10 minutes later, I released the evidence. It was security footage from the villa. Even Sarah hadn't known there were cameras in that house. The footage clearly showed Alex scratching the piano himself and then framing someone else. At the same time, Sam, Alex's son, bravely came forward. I was too scared to tell the truth back then. I was afraid my dad would hit me. Mr. Quinn is actually a really nice person. The public outcry reversed before it even had a chance to build. I was completely unaffected. Alex and Sarah, for conspiracy to commit assault and for the old murder, were sentenced to 5 and 12 years in prison, respectively. Sam was sent to a group home. At the entrance of the home, Sam waited for a long time, as if hoping someone would come to adopt him. But the person he was hoping for never appeared. 12 years later, Sarah was released from prison. She had nowhere to go. After Alex got out, he crossed some people on the street, got one of his legs broken, and then disappeared. Our son went abroad to study and had since become famous. And me? Somehow she found herself back at the conservatory. She guessed I would still be there. Through a crack in the door, she saw me, almost unchanged. Time seemed to have left no trace on my face, only making me more serene and elegant. The next moment she froze. Sitting across from me was a grown-up Sam. I was guiding him through an extremely difficult piece of music. After the lesson, Sam spoke nervously. "Uncle Mark." My expression was unreadable. "It's Professor Quinn." The two titles drew a clear line. Sam stammered his thanks for my guidance and repeatedly apologized for what happened years ago. I was busy wiping down the piano. "You became my student on your own merit. You don't need to thank anyone. What happened back then wasn't your fault, but you can't force me to forgive you. Understand?" Sam was silent for a long time, then bowed deeply to me. Sarah paused, then turned and walked away. She had wanted to beg me one last time, to try and mend things. But now, she already knew the answer. Wrong was wrong. Lost was lost. Her mark drew a firm line between gratitude and grudges, and he never looked back.